Welcome everyone to the webinar this afternoon, and thank you, Steve, for the housekeeping. I'd like to introduce our speaker for today. Her name is Elsie Enanga, and she has 16 years experience as an O-level English examiner for the Cameroon GCE board. She is a passionate advocate for innovative technology in education. And she participated in the SUSI exchange program at the University of Montana in 2019, and in 2021 contributed to the British Council English Connect CPD video series. Also, she's presented recorded lessons for the Ministry of Secondary Education in Yaoundé in Cameroon. And her work is particularly focused on low resource contexts, demonstrating a commitment to accessible quality education for all. I think we can all understand and identify with that. Over to you, Elsie, for your webinar.
Thank you, Linda, and I wish to welcome all participants, all those who are here, whether it's in the morning or evening, wherever you are, you're warmly welcome. And straight away, we would like to delve into our webinar for today, which is entitled Harmonizing English as a Foreign Language Teaching and Social Emotional Learning, SEL for short, an innovative paradigm for success. So an overview of today's session, we have key definition of terms. We have the relevance and interconnectivity between SEL and EFL contexts. We'll also have social emotional learning as an inclusive practice in the EFL classroom. We'll have some ideas on how to integrate social emotional learning competencies in lesson planning. And then, of course, we'll round off with a question and answer session. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll invite you all to the chat. And Linda is there, she's there, she will help us. And first, I'd like to ask this question: what is social emotional learning? Please put your ideas in the chat. We have a few minutes for that. Thank you, all those who are joining in. I'd like you to write in the chat what you think social emotional learning is all about. Yes, Fozia, thank you. You say it's considering emotional aspects of students. That's a great answer. Great. Anyone else? Yeah, using soft skills. Great, great. 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 Thank you, Dalal. Very good. Acquiring skills from manage social, manage emotions, interacting socially with our students. Olukwa Fumi Milayos Grace says it's helping students to understand their emotions. Yes. Great. Great. Readiness. I don't really understand what that means. Maybe we'll have time to talk about that later. Very good. Nabil says it's a person's self-awareness, it's psychology. Thank you for those wonderful answers. Acquiring a sense of emotion. Great, great, great. Great answers there. Please keep your chats coming in. Very good. It's a way of developing social awareness and self-control. Great. Nice interaction and communication between teacher and students, obviously. That's a great one. Yes. Someone says it's building relationships and social awareness. Very good. It's acquiring social awareness between the learner and the students. Emotional management strategies. Great, 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 great. Okay, thank you so much for those wonderful ideas. And we would like to move on with our next slide to find out exactly One is social emotional learning. Thank you so much once more for those lovely answers. And we see that most of those answers you gave are all integrated in the answer and the definition of social emotional learning, which is the process by which young people or adults acquire and apply knowledge and skills and develop attitudes and to develop healthy identities. Someone said rightly, to manage our emotions, achieve personal goals, feel and show empathy. You know, everyone in this world needs a hand of support. So as educators, we are in our classrooms to help and support our students. So social emotional learning also entails us to establish and maintain supportive relationships between the teacher and the learners, and maybe also between the learners themselves. They need to help one another, relate with one another amicably, and it's also making responsible decisions. The next slide, please. Oh, my audio is breaking. I'm sorry about that. Okay, I would like to talk again a little more about social emotional learning to have a definition. And we said, I hope you can hear me now, it is applying knowledge in the classroom so that our learners can be able to develop skills which will enable them manage their emotions, achieve personal goals, feel and show empathy, and establish and maintain supportive relationships in our classrooms, within the community, and wherever these learners may find themselves. Please, can we move to the characteristics of social emotional learning? The Castle model gives us a very...
I don't have money in the warmer. Oh, mobile, let's withdraw now.
Sorry, please mute yourself if
It
you're not
was
presenting.
already 8 you gave now. So I've been in the
It's giving me...
Elsie, are you there?
Yeah.
Seems Elsie has some connectivity issues, so we'll hold on a second to see if she's managed to connect again, and then we carry on with the presentation. Thank you so much, everyone.
Hi, I hope I'm audible enough now. I'm really sorry. I hope I'm audible enough. Linda, am I on now?
Yes,
Fine now.
you're back on,
If I were you, I'd try turning off your video because your voice might be clearer with your video off, Elsie. Try.
Okay, I was saying that the Castle wheel gives us a very clear definition or a guideline into what are the characteristics of social emotional learning. And it starts with 5 major characteristics in the wheel. And this wheel is known for its 5 major qualities or characteristics, which stands for, the Castle model stands for collaboration for academic, social, and emotional learning. It deals with self-management. It deals with self-awareness. It deals with social awareness. It deals with responsible decision-making, and also responsible relational skills. So all of these 5 features are important in developing social, emotional aspects, developing these aspects in our learners. So the wheel is an evidence-based model which centers around these 5 competences: self-management, social awareness, self-awareness, responsible decision-making, and supportive relationship skill, the relational skills. Please, let's move to the next slide. Okay, there are some key terms in social emotional learning. I'll just wish that we go to our charts and then to definitions on our right to those on our left. Some features of social emotional learning. So I'll wish that we go to our slides and then we try to match the skills. So can we get to us to our charts, please? No slides. Let's match. We have the definitions and explanations, and then we have key features.
Hi, Elsie. Sorry to disturb. Just to let you know that, just to let you know that, yeah, if you could just turn off your video, I think you maybe a bit more, you know,
okay,
a bit more audible. Yeah, to the audience, please. Thank you so much. Thanks.
All right.
I think that works better. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, so we are trying to match the definitions and the characteristics of social emotional learning as we have on the slide. Very good, Gideon. Let's see. Say 1 is C, involves understanding and empathize. Fozia says 2 is B. This competency involves developing and maintaining healthy relationships. Very good. 2 is B. 3, this competency involves making informed, critical, and constructive choices about personal and social behavior. So that's A. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Doris, for joining. Thank you for matching those. So we see that the major characteristics of the Castle model of social emotional learning is centered around responsible decision-making, relationship skills, social awareness, and the other 2 that we saw in the previous slides. Please, can we move to the next slide? Okay, we'll go straight on to find out what are the benefits of teaching social emotional learning in the English as a foreign language context or in English as a foreign language teaching. What do you think could be the benefits if we incorporate aspects of the environment, if we incorporate relational skills, how is this going to be beneficial for our learners? Please kindly go to the chart once more and let us know. Yes, those are great. It maximizes anxiety. Please, we'll address questions at the end. It really impacts brain, makes them aware of their social environment. Very good, includes global citizenship. Very good. It helps students understand the dynamics of learning. Linda, please, if you are there, can you give me a hand with some of the answers?
The answers, do you mean the next slide? Next slide?
Oh, no, not yet. Let's have a few more answers.
Oh, do you want me to read out the answers from the chat? Yeah, people are saying lots of great things, like it improves their global citizenship skills. It helps students to understand the dynamics of learning and finding support for their learning problems. It manages stress, improves concentration, loads of great answers, helps improve student skills in social environments, and helps to create independent learners, increases motivation, enables effective situational communication. Loads of answers here. Awareness in students, adaptive strategies, social autonomy, resilience. This is a good one. It helps to be effective in the digital world. So loads of good answers there.
Great. Okay, let's move to the next slide, please. Okay, like some of us have mentioned, we see that there are many benefits of integrating social emotional learning competencies in English as a foreign.
Okay, I think Elsie had disappeared for a second. If people can match these again in the chat, try and match the numbers 1, 2, 3 to the letters A, B, C. Put your answers in the chat while Elsie is returning.
Great. I've seen answers there. Number 1B. Outcomes and mental health. Positive classroom environment, great. Improved performance should be 1, number 1C. Skills, students manage stress, better mental health is A, 2A. And 3, we have better relationships with peers and teachers and members of the community if we use social emotional learning in our classrooms. So the students perform better. They are able to have a supportive and inclusive classroom environment. So 3, very good, very good, very good. 1C, 2A, 3B. Thank you, Jumoke. Thank you so much for the wonderful answers in the chat. We see that there are a lot of benefits if we try to involve our students' mental and emotional health in the classroom. When we consider their emotional strengths, we consider their background, we consider how they feel and how they reflect, we consider where they live and where they come from in the classroom. It helps them better understand the language we are teaching. Please, let's move to the next slide. Okay, the CASA model is still on this wheel. It develops a wheel and it shows the part played by different stakeholders in helping learners improve. From the outer shell, we have the role played by the community. If the community provides structures that align with learning opportunities, we see that the students perform well. We see that the second part, the family and caregivers, if they provide authentic partnerships, families and caregivers, it will affect the output of learners. We also have schools. If schools within the school culture and practices and policies, if they encourage learners, if they take into consideration the different talents, the different abilities of the learners, it will help improve the outcome of language teaching. And at the inner circle, we have the classroom. And if instructions, self-awareness, proper classroom relationships between peers is encouraged by the educator towards the learners, we find that our classrooms will be marvelous places for our learners to integrate, to inculcate a language, to better study, because they know that the educator is really concerned about their social well-being. Let's move on, please, to the next slide. Okay, while teaching social emotional learning in the English as a foreign context, we need to understand that social emotional learning is not it's not a curriculum. It is a continuum. We move away from teacher-centered practices to learner-centered engagement so that the learners better understand our lessons. And we see that when we are teaching in the classroom, we draw examples from our learners so that they will be able to understand. That's from the learner's environment. We teach clearly, life examples, real life situations, activities that make the learner comfortable in the environment in which they find themselves. We also realize that social emotional learning allows for higher order thinking, collaboration, teamwork, pair work, well-being. So if you're working with a team, if you're working within the team, you will find that other contributions will help you think better. And we see that our learners will engage more if they know that their emotion, if they know that their surrounding, the background, where they come from is being considered. We may identify learners with problems. We may not be able to deal with a context where we have large classes, but we can identify critical cases that need our attention, and then we draw closer to them to try to make them more engaged and more motivated in learning the language. So like I said before, social emotional learning is a process, is a continuum and not a curriculum. It is not how to change the way we've been teaching. It allows us to help the students, support them, and give them a clearer route to study and get motivated in the language. So if we consider their backgrounds, consider where they come from, consider their diversity, as we're going to be seeing in the next slide, it will be very important for the learners as they learn the language. Let's move to the next slide. So I would like to draw our attention to this quote by Arthur Ashe, which says that we should start where we are and use what we have to do what we can. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. So we are not inventing. We will contextualize according to our context. We will not follow. Maybe other highly technologically developed countries, and then we forget that our learners are not yet exposed to all these technologies. We use what we have to make the learning process easy. And so we contextualize. And also we encourage critical thinking. We do not allow, let's say, spoon feed the learners, but we help them think, we help them find the solutions for themselves, and we help them delve into problem-solving areas within their communities and within the environment where they find themselves. Please, can we move to the next slide? Okay, so we want to look at how we can use social emotional learning as an inclusive practice in the English as a foreign language classroom. So there is a very popular video I watched a long time ago, and that is what has helped me to re-evaluate the way I teach. Sometimes when you come into class, instead of just addressing the students from the forefront, you will help the learners, welcome them. There is a very popular video about that in the different methods they like. Let's say heart-shaped, fingers crossed, jamming the knuckles, whatever way pleases the learners. So we have particular welcoming activities, songs, if we cannot, songs, or let's say a recitation, or some music, something to set the mood for the class. So the welcoming activities should try to include all learners and their learning abilities. So we begin each class, each activity every day with activities that build community, that helps the students connect, such as greeting each person by their name or by their group activity, calling them by their name, calling them by the region they come from or from their popular name they want to be known by. So it makes them engaging. And then we look for activities, engaging activities. The popular Think, Pair, Share is there. There is the mirror activity that promotes interactive learning. This mirror activity is like raising expectations of our learners. We just ask them, now you find yourself in this classroom. Where will you think? Let's say at the end of the year we are at the end of the academic year, where will you like to be? What are the areas you would like to improve on? And then the learner makes a list of those things. And by the end of the year, we can call the student forward, or the student is asked to talk about how he or she has improved. So they take it's a mirror reflecting how they've performed, how they've worked from the starting point at the beginning of the lesson or the beginning of the school year to the end. So we engage them in activities that are interactive, that consider also their various learning styles. And then we have equitable learning environment. We see that cell strategies create classrooms that are inclusive of all learners. And I wish that we really take into consideration that our learners are diverse. They come from different backgrounds. They have different perspectives about English. They have different perspectives about the second language. So we will take all of that into consideration and then help them move from a 0 point to an average or a high level in acquiring language. So we incorporate their diversity. We consider their point of view. We do not dictate. Like the picture we had in the previous slide, it moves from the teacher being dictative and then being dictative to a teacher that shares, that encourages learners to evolve, that encourages the learners to think for themselves without readily being dictated. And then we see that we can also have an optimistic closure. So in our classrooms, we can make the learners, they can bring these ideas, or as well, when we start off, they will be able to continue. And we will realize that we can have a reflective activity at the end that emphasizes the importance of the work that we are doing. And we will tell the learners to be forward thinking. They will move from one stage instead of having our traditional, okay, open your books to this page and do this homework. We will have the learners contribute to something valuable in society, solving a particular problem in the classroom related to the subject under discourse. And then that is how they will look forward into the future. And that's how they are going to acquire the language. Please, let's move to the next slide. So we want to look at how to incorporate these social emotional competencies in the classroom. We want to look at the ways we can make our learners be more involved in the classroom. We can have cooperative games. These games can be at the beginning of the learning or process. They can be starters at the beginning. We can have fillers that come in the middle somewhere to motivate, to encourage and energize the students. And we have coolers. These are all activities that we can use. We can have board games, collaborative games, conversational games, very short and less strenuous activities that help reinforce the idea we want to pass across. So we will help our learners through games, very important, through conversational games, a dialogue, role play. We give them less strenuous activities like passing a ball around and helping the learners to pick out an equation for themselves and be able to answer questions. Let's say you are passing a ball around in class. The students may stand as well, they may sit down. When you get the ball, you pick out the question and you answer, or you can throw the question to someone in the classroom. Can we move to the next slide, please? So here I'm going to give you some practical ideas, which I'm sure most of us have been practicing, but we need to reinforce so that our classrooms become more supportive. And with there, we are going to see some of the benefits also of such activities. So the first one we're going to look at is the importance of group work. Group work is really important because it promotes collaboration. Someone said at the beginning that social emotional learning fosters critical thinking, and here we are. So in their groups, they will find solutions to different problems. They will solve problems within their class, within their communities, at home, when they find themselves. So we see that this group work enhances critical thinking. It fosters problem solving and promotes collaboration. Let's move on to the next slide, please. We also see that when we integrate social emotional competences in the classroom, we can as well make use of pair work. The students work in pair. Don't forget our famous think, pair, share. So it promotes collaboration as well as enhanced critical thinking, as we've said. And then there's also project-based learning. Next slide, please. Learners work in groups. They find common solutions and they are able to develop the language. They are able to learn and exercise themselves in the classroom. One other very important way of integrating social emotional competencies into the classroom is using the kindness board. The kindness board is a way of asking the learners how they feel after they've learned a lesson. The kindness board and the well-being boards are there. You can design it the way you want in your classroom, and you share post-it sticky post-it cards or slips to the learners, and they write something on it, and then they post it at the beginning of the class. You can do it at the beginning or at the end, and then we try to measure and see if all of this has been, if all of their expectations have been granted or they've achieved something in the classroom. So we have this well-being. It's also known as a well-being board. They can stick those papers on the classroom, in the classroom on the board, somewhere in the board, and they just want to feel fine. How do they feel? There will be people who would draw faces, sad faces. Those will call for the teacher's attention, because some students will not really feel fine in the class, and they are free to exercise, they are free to express themselves. So they can as well stick those parts the way they feel. And it is for the teacher to go back, identify them, call them separately, and try to find out what is happening. to them so that the learning environment is supportive of the way the child feels or the learner feels in the classroom. Let's move to the next slide, please. Okay, we also have the English Vision Board. It's a very popular idea, and it's a social emotional competence. So this board can be in the form of cardboards and posters that the learners bring to class to express the way they feel. Beforehand, you can tell the learners that next class, we are going to be talking about this topic. We are going to be having this topic. Now, bring photos of what you think can make the class better. And so they will bring photos, they will bring pictures, paper clips, magazine cutouts. They can bring them to the classroom, and then we put them together of what they think their vision of their country, of their environment should be. There are, like the example we have there are many things that the learners want to talk about. They want clean homes, they want balanced diets, they want to eradicate pollution, and many other aspects as can be seen in the vision board. So they have a vision of themselves. They have a vision of who they want to become. That's part of the characteristics of social emotional learning that helps our learners to develop career objectives, develop personal goals. And so they will tell you their expectations, and then they put them on this board that we can find in any part of the class. And sometimes we could publish some of the students' work in the school magazine, or maybe during the General Assembly, they may take a few minutes to talk about this activity or this poster in front of the administration. So this is a helpful way to help the learners develop socially. Can we move to the next slide, please? Okay, we have some references here, and if we will share the slides, I think Steve and Linda are going to make those available. And then we have other material that the British Council is making available for the learners or for educators on social emotional learning, which we can consult to learn more, to gain more, and our learners will be more interested. Our teaching environment will really be improved, and we will find out that instead of our learners maybe running away, shying away from our lessons, they would be able to interact in the language they're learning. Move to the next slide, please. Thank you very much. Now we are going to move to our questions, and Linda is going to read out the questions that have been popping up in the chat so that we can answer them.
If you want to try your video again, Elsie, then you can see if they can see you. That was a really interesting webinar. There was so much comment in the chat. Everyone's really interested in it, and I think people especially loved all the visuals, the diagrams. There's lots of comments about them, and the kindness board. People were commenting on that as well, and lots of very positive comments thanking you very much for your interesting and excellent presentation. But there are also quite a few questions, so we've got time now, so I'll read out some of them. The first one was, I think, from Fozia. How is the castle wheel different from Daniel Goleman's model? I wonder if you know Daniel Goleman's book, Emotional Intelligence?
Yes, I've read about emotional intelligence, which from a perspective of making it a differentiation between intelligence quotient and emotional intelligence. So that's the perspective from which I read, but I've not read that particular book. And I know that there is emotional intelligence, which is different from the intelligence quotient. So emotional intelligence has to deal with the way we use our emotions to respond to the environment, as to respond and interact with those around us. We can find issues of empathy and sympathy when we move around and we find that maybe a neighbor or someone is in mourning and then it's affecting their performance in the classroom. So we have to take note of that one. And then we are not maybe harsh, maybe scolding. We try to empathize with the way the learner is so that we do not hinder them from taking interest in the subject. So social intelligence, emotional intelligence is really important. It's a very important aspect of social emotional learning. I didn't delve so much into that, but we can have further readings from the references I made, and it's a very important feature of social emotional learning.
Great. Okay. Yeah, and that's a great book, that Daniel Goleman's book.
Yeah.
And I think SEL has developed on from that because he wrote his book in 1995. So it's all very relevant and linked. There was another question. How does the castle wheel model relate to effective learning and inclusive teaching? That's a big question.
Great. We realize that there are qualities of the castle wheel or the features that I said. We learned that the environment in which the child is being tutored plays a very important role in helping the child acquire a language. For example, if the teacher is welcoming, if the teacher is making the learners aware that their society needs change, that they didn't have a say in the society, and they have to improve the society. I think it helps them to build their critical thinking skills. So there are five features that I mentioned in the slides, which are really important that we look at, because we have problem-solving skills, relationships that need to be strategized. We have goals that the learners need to establish, because one of the characteristics of social emotional learning is being able to develop personal goals and achieving them. So it is related with the classroom work. And when you start the class, for example, you can ask the learners, what do you hope to learn from this lesson? How do you think that this lesson can solve a problem that we are experiencing in society or within the community? So, and that pushes them to critical thinking. That explores also on their ability to make personal goals, because if you are in the classroom and you think about, let's say, a subject on democracy and how you can make your environment better, that's a goal. Maybe that's a career goal or a personal objective for a learner that you may be improving, especially if the learner develops interest in that lesson. So he will want to develop those according to the 5 features that we learned. He may want to experiment with the environment. He wants to be self-aware, how to emerge, how do I stand out, how can I be more competent and confident in speaking the language. So those 5 features, I may not be able to enumerate them out clearly, but I think we have self-awareness, we have developing personal objectives and achieving them. So all of these features, all of these characteristics can really be incorporated into our learning. We just need to, we just need to drive the learner's attention, just a little, direct them towards those features, and they will be able to achieve it in any lesson we are about to teach.
Okay, great. There's loads more questions actually here. One question, good one. Do you think SEL suits every learning style?
It may not be. I'm not an expert on that, but I think it will take into consideration a majority of the learners. Maybe, if not all, but because I need to emphasize here that our learners of diverse backgrounds and of diverse learning strategies and style. So social emotional learning may address a majority of the learners in the class, if not all, because there are really exceptional cases where we may have to direct to the community, we have to call in the parents' attention, we may have to maybe bring in the administration to help. So it will suit a good majority of the styles. If someone is the quiet type, he may write out answers, he may write out contributions and give to those who are articulate, those who are competent. He has practiced because within the group, he has contributed some knowledge. Even though he's quiet, but he has been able to give out something within a group or within a pair. So it takes into consideration a good majority of our learners. That's what I think.
Right. And another question, interesting question from Abby in Ethiopia. Can we teach cell explicitly?
How do we teach cell explicitly? I wish to emphasize that teaching explicitly means making it clear. It means making it clear, not bringing up, let's say, difficult words that hamper meaning or that hinder the learners. And how do you make your teaching clear? Is by drawing from local contextual examples. That's teaching explicitly. For example, in a classroom, you may have learners from a particular domain. They may be used to a particular food, and you want to emphasize on the issue of a balanced diet. So you will bring out activity, or you will draw from examples within that context that helps them understand the use or the need of a balanced diet. Maybe through a photo, maybe through various pictures or images that emphasize the need of a balanced diet drawn from the environment in which you are. That is teaching explicitly. You are telling the learners clearly that they are learning their language using their own examples, drawing from the context in which they find themselves. So teaching explicitly means teaching clearly. You are teaching the social, emotional part of it, considering their emotions, considering their background clearly. There's no need for far-fetched examples, if I can say that. So that's the meaning of teaching explicitly.
Yeah, so we can address them and name the feelings and name the emotions, can't we? Or you just do the tasks. And there's a few more questions about tasks. What about for teaching kids? What games do you recommend to help with stress or critical thinking? And there was even an answer in another question which said, do you think yoga can calm hyperactive kids? So what do you think about stress, yoga, critical thinking for kids? Any comments on those questions?
We like to address the issue or the issue of stress. Sometimes in our with our younger learners, there's a time for a nap. There's a time for a stroll. You can take the students out for a little stroll out of the classroom environment. And there are various ways we can integrate social emotional learning. Maybe bringing in experts to the classroom. I have the fun way of introducing the family to some of my private learners. I bring in their parents, and they happen to be living with their grandparents. So I ask the grandma, you will not be speaking any English, so don't be afraid. I ask the grandpa, just sit there and let the child try to identify how we call you, what are the things they can learn from you as they are old. And so the grandma can speak, maybe in the L1, and then we translate or we talk about it in a story, or the learner writes it down, and then we discuss. So we can deal with stress through rest, calling in experts, those who are qualified to, because the teacher may not be qualified to deal with issues of stress. So we can call in an expert. But I think our local examples we have a nap. For young learners, it's not forbidding to take a little nap, time to rest. They try to stretch out, hands up, hands down, a little song, a little wave, less strenuous activities, hands up, bend down, touch your toes for a little 5 minutes, and then the students relax. So they can deal with stress in that way. For young learners, I think most of our schools have been doing it, and we need to encourage it, because we tend to forget about it, or we force it on the children. Like some students may not want to rest. or they may not like it. So they may go and meet a specialist if the accommodation or the classroom atmosphere makes room for that. They can go out on a stroll. We do not hinder them in one setting in a classroom. So we make room for the learners to develop their style, their way of learning, which can help them improve the language.
Yeah. And it can be, the whole stretching thing could be developed into yoga if it's the right mood and the right day, couldn't it?
Close your eyes. Think about a picture or who you want to be. Close your eyes for 1 minute. Think about what you will be in future. And some people would think, some people would draw while doing that, or you may have some time to describe what you are thinking about. And so that helps them relax.
And people mentioning in the chat, physical response or total physical response, which is another way.
Great.
One more little question here. Somebody asked how the kindness board could be adapted to a teenage school context. Have you done it with teenagers?
How can it be adapted? Is that the question?
Sorry, how can the kindness board be adapted to teenage students? Have you done it with teenagers or in a whole school?
Okay, but I think that it's in the classroom and learners sometimes may be shy to come out to the front of the class to say how they feel. So they may write it and you go out and collect from them and then you post. Or they can do it individually. They can make up, those who have the technological power, they are free to write out how they feel or draw or have a discussion on what they feel, because the kindness board is a way of expressing emotions. It's a way of talking about how
they have just as many emotions as kids, don't they?
Yes, so they should write them out. Write them out, and then the teacher collects.
Try it.
Posts. Yes, it's a very interesting activity.
We've had a couple of people very, very patiently waiting with their hands up since the beginning of the questions. So Gladys, would you like to unmute yourself for a brief question, and then we can take Dr. Manasseh's as the last one, I think. Gladys?
Okay, yes, thank you very much. It's not a question, but I just wanted to say something about the Castle wheel or the Castle framework, to say that, you know, it has a logical progression, beginning with self-awareness. The children should be aware of their emotions, happiness, sadness, fear, frustration, all of that. And then they should be able to manage these emotions in themselves. And then they move on to learning about being aware of the emotions of others. Can you recognize when somebody is sad, happy, and so on? And then develop relation skills on, you know, how to help these people, you know, in such situations. And then you go on to responsible decision making. And because of this, I think that CEL can be taught explicitly. For example, you let the children understand, you teach them that with this kind of emotion, you know, you can handle it this way, or if you have, your friend has this kind of emotion, you can help them this way, or to relate with your friends, you can do this and that, or to take responsible decisions, you can do it this way or that way. So that is just my own thoughts, what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Gladys. Thank you. And we've just got time for one more question from Dr. Manasseh. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity. Mine is not actually a question, but I really want to make an appeal. First of all, I want to appreciate this wonderful program. It's a good one. So my appeal is this. For some of us who are early researchers, I just rounded up my PhD. We are looking for opportunity where we can run our fellowship in teaching English as a second language. And this platform can give us such an opportunity. I want to appreciate you so much for a wonderful job. We are learning a lot. I believe we can be very good professionals. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think maybe you need to join Telegram group and ask for people there. It's easier to meet people there in the Telegram group for the post webinar discussion. That would be great. And then we've still got 1 more minute, I think, for Tsigereda. Would you like to ask your question?
Thank you, Linda. First of all, I would like to thank the presenter, Elsie. It was very nice presentation. I really appreciate the way you presented. And my question is, don't you think that it is possible to teach social emotional learning for students, especially in high schools, exclusively, like, for example, just simply telling them how to manage their emotions? It is also possible to just teach them exclusively by just telling them different ways of handling their emotion.
Okay, just a brief answer, Elsie. You got time for a very brief answer?
Yes, I think that's also an option. Very good. Thank you so much for coming in with that. That's because higher level learners, they are able to reflect. That's a good option. That's a very good option.
Right, and a good short answer. Well done.
Yeah.
Loads of questions, loads of comments. Thank you all so much, everybody, especially Elsie, for this really, really interesting webinar. Sorry about the sound connection at some point, but I think everyone got Elsie's points, especially with the great visuals. Thank you so much, everyone.